The other promises he'll grow on you with time.
It's like a new pair of underwear. At first it's constrictive, but after a while it becomes a part of you.
Together they're bringing you the best in Oklahoma State sports talk and their opinions on sports topics from around the country.
That's right. Listen up. Hey, listen up. You.
Patrick Wheeler.
Let's stomp these dudes.
And Zach Lancaster.
Everyone is stupid except me.
This is the Afternoon Sports Drive on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network.
That's what I'm talking about.
You ain't never heard nothing like this. Let me work, show me where the mic is. I'm on stage, black shirt and my Timbs. You know how I do it, I ain't playing with you, I've been grinding. Anybody trying to sleep on me, better do something with your eyelids. I hear a lot of whining, but I don't hear a lot of rhyming. Whoa. Everybody got opinions, let it go into my ear, then I block that. Put me on stage, I'ma rock that, saying you the best. Stop that, phony, I am not that. What are y'all doing out here?
This is the Afternoon Sports Drive Friday edition. Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster, and Levi Peckinpah's in the house on this Friday. Well, boys, it would have been a much more happy Friday for all of us, right? If we get ready to talk some Bedlam basketball. But as everyone should probably be aware by now, that's not going to happen. Bedlam is postponed due to a positive COVID case on Oklahoma State's team. Contact tracing, all that, just not doable right now. And Zach, I would have to think that when we saw that the Zoom conference call was canceled, I didn't want to speculate, but I've seen it happen too many times, right? We knew it was about to happen, unfortunately.
Yeah, so we get the email. We get the email on Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday, that we're going to have a Zoom call on Wednesday, and then Tuesday rolls around. Like, all right, well, we're gonna push it back to Friday, and I'm like, okay, that works. That's cool. And then not even an hour before the start of it, we get an email. Sorry for the update, for the late update, but we are unable to do the Zoom call. We're going to have to cancel it. And I was like, okay, that's no big deal. But then if you kept on reading, it said, we'll provide you with more information later. Why would they provide us with more information about a canceled Zoom call unless there's something else going down?
Yeah, that was the bad part. Yeah.
And so I was like, oh my gosh. So I immediately started digging into it. And I'm surprised that it came from Oklahoma State. OU, they're dealing with COVID right now. You got Brady Manick. He's out. He had tested positive, and he was actually supposed to be out for tomorrow's game as well. They had another player that had tested positive. He was supposed to be back. And so Oklahoma State, this will be the second positive case that they've had this season, at least one positive case that we know of this time. Obviously, Avery Anderson had tested earlier in the season. But this will be the second game that they've had postponed, and it'll be the second game in a row, as the West Virginia game on the 19th is also postponed. So Big 12 going to have to get with both all three of those programs to try to figure out future dates and what works, and that's where we're going to get into a nightmare. Not necessarily are they going to have enough wins or not to get into the Big 12 tournament or into the NCAA tournament. It's going to be, when are we going to find time? Because you're not going to want guys playing a Saturday 8 o'clock game, turning around playing a Monday game, turning around playing a Wednesday game, and then having to play another Saturday game, and then back to 2. So it's going to be a logistical nightmare, especially with multiple teams involved.
Yeah, they're going to start. We're starting packing in some games late. That's for sure, to get these in, because there's still heavy portions of the schedule on the way. So, Levi, I know, man, you were excited too, right? This was Bedlam. It's going to be a good one.
Oh yeah, it was going to be really great, but it's just now it's just pain, because now that it's postponed, not only one game but 2 games, so basically almost a whole week of basketball is postponed for Oklahoma State. So now it's not only you got to wait for all these guys to get healthy and then reschedule everything, then you got to think, once the next matchup rolls around where they can actually play, will they be in the right shape, in the right frame of mind to be able, after not being able to play a week of basketball, be able to suit up and truly go out there and give their 100% grade A effort against their next team?
Yeah, that's going to be the question, because as of right now, all activities are paused. The good thing is they've got the antibody test, they've got that quick, they have the rapid results. So, I mean, if you ideally, and realistically, they could test, a couple times, 3 or 4 times over the next 2 to 3 days, and if by Sunday or Monday they're still all tested negative, then I would think you could be able to get them back going again.
Yeah, that's the bummer part. Not just missing the game, but also you'd have to think, at least I did, Oklahoma State was about to, I think you talk about getting on a roll. Like, this was a chance, coming off Kansas. If you beat Oklahoma, then all of a sudden you're going into, West Virginia was canceled. We're going into Baylor, and you're like,
that's going to be the big one right there, because you've got the next 2 games postponed. That's this weekend, and then you got the 19th on Tuesday. Levi brought up an interesting point. Are these, when are they going to be able to resume activities? Because, knock on wood, let's say they can't resume activities till Wednesday or Thursday, and then you go into the Baylor game on Saturday. I mean, you're already. I'm not writing them off, but you're already not confident going into the Baylor game, considering they're one of the best teams in the country. You go into it unprepared. Yikes.
Yeah, that would be tough to do for sure. So with Levi with us just for the first hour today, we're going to get in our NFL picks, and then second hour we'll be getting into more Oklahoma State stuff, as well as TJ Eckert will join us from KTUL, talk about it. Originally he was going to give us a bunch of Bedlam insight. Now it's going to be a little different, but he'll still join us then to start at the 4 o'clock hour. So by the way, last time we had you on, Levi, you got the best of us on picks because you did go with the Browns. And Zach
One
and I,
of like 15 people across the country.
Zach and I were like, nah, this isn't happening. And then, of course, we all know the disaster that ensued, right? Yeah. So what did you know that we didn't know? I mean, come on now.
All I knew was Pittsburgh was way down. I mean, if you think about it, again, they had lost 4 of their past 5 games and just looked completely out of it. And here's the thing. Once you go full Corvette, you can't go back. And so once you put out that TikTok, then you get clocked. So that's what happens.
Oh, Juju. It's actually a really interesting story with Juju, right? The flip that he did, the 360 that he did from like one of the most liked players in the league to now
the most hated.
Everybody's just like, yeah, well, you're the next wide receiver drama queen.
Does that 180 flip happen if there's no pandemic? Because TikTok was a big thing, but TikTok blew up in the spring because everyone had all this free time. So if there's no pandemic, TikTok may not be as big as it is, and you may not have Juju dancing around out there.
Well, it's mainly also has to revolve around you always hate people who win. And that's just the whole thing, is you always hate the guy on top no matter what, even if it's completely reasonable, because for a while it wasn't like Pittsburgh was full of terrible people. It's literally just Pittsburgh had a really great defense, offense was rolling, Big Ben was looking good. And then just the little things stuck out with Juju continuously disrespecting NFL teams. And people actually realized it, and they're like, nah, you can't do that.
Well, the way that it happened is why it was such a bad deal. Like, because I still think that he would, if there's no TikTok, he's probably going to put videos of himself on Twitter dancing on opponents' logos. Yeah. Like, that was the bad part.
I think no matter what, that was going to be inevitable, and I think it was just because he was finally starting to get really big, and then it's just they were doing so well that everybody, all the eyes just got attracted to them, and it was just like, hate that man.
Like, he knew that was either I got to win or that's like an immediate target. Like, it's this is coming. And he knew what was going on. By the way, my inner boomer's about to show a little bit, I guess, because I'm not a TikTok guy. I'll admit that now. Like, good. It's Vine till I die for me.
I'm not going to lie. It's actually not bad.
Vine
because
is dead, though.
Until I die.
So you're just not going to watch fun videos?
I do, but I don't have like a TikTok. You can't find me on TikTok.
Are you one of those guys who goes to YouTube and watch Vine compilations?
Not anymore.
So,
I'm over that phase.
I was you in the spring. The fun thing about TikTok is you control what you want to see because it's all algorithms. So if you only want to see NFL stuff, you can just search NFL stuff and start liking NFL stuff, and nothing. Like right now, I'm on a big cook kick. So there's nothing but like chefs and food and stuff like that.
See, I'm with that as well. I probably started about in October.
And kids getting hurt.
Kids getting hurt.
Always hilarious.
Or women on elevated surfaces.
I originally started out on a stand-up comedy kick.
They don't stay on elevated surfaces.
Okay.
They fall down hard.
I originally started out on a stand-up comedy kick, and I always watched people doing stand-up comedy. Yeah. Then I think right now I've maneuvered in so many different directions. I think I've went from people doing art, and now I'm on Rocket League for some reason, and NFL fantasy, because there's one guy who does, I believe it was a fantasy like therapy type of thing, where those guys who are doing so terrible in therapy or or in NFL are going to therapy, and it was hilarious.
You got to be really careful though with TikTok because
it can go off the deep end.
Well, I was gonna say, like, I love the algorithm fact, but if you're not careful and you accidentally like something that you're like, oh man, good for you, like it's a kid with special needs or something, and he posts a TikTok and it gets like 2 million likes, and you're like, man, that's awesome, I'm gonna like that, you know. And let's say his TikTok was based on, I don't know, playing soccer. Get ready to get on soccer TikTok because you're gonna be bombarded with soccer.
Yeah, I'm in the camp that when I'm scrolling through Twitter or Instagram or whatever, I always feel like the best ones usually make it there, and they're ones that blow up on those social sites. So I'm like, I saw it, I'm good. I don't need to go down the end. It's for me, it's like two extremes. One, they're like really funny, some good ones, and then the other one's just really cringy videos of girls dancing to random videos.
And you can say not interested, and then all of a sudden they're not there.
I can go in there and say, I'm not interested in these really, really cringy videos. TikTok.
And then it says, we'll show you less of these, and it's pretty good. It shows you less.
It's nice.
You got to walk a fine line.
One of these days.
But you get in trouble, man. You'll be like 4 hours into it. It's like 4 a.m, and you're like, what have I done?
That's what
mine
used to do.
And you're on bowling TikTok or something, or knife making, or
and then you're just like, one more will be okay.
You started off with police chases, and all of a sudden you're watching some grandma make bowling A's.
It's like a classic YouTube wormhole.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Well,
10 out of 10, we'll recommend.
Yeah, well, okay. One of these days, I will let you guys know if I ever. if I ever get on there, I will let you guys know.
Talk about a YouTube rabbit hole.
Oh yeah,
that's what we just did.
That's basically what that was.
We're terribly sorry.
Yeah, we're sorry. We were talking. That all started from Juju, by the way. Yeah, Juju. He's you know what? He might not even be a Steeler next year, by the way. So
contract.
I think we're and we'll that's going to be an interesting topic later on in the off seasons where he might land, because there's teams that are going to be vying for his services. The dude's like 25, right? And he's played for like 3 years in the NFL.
Well,
that's good.
And you get to that 11, 12 game mark, and all of a sudden Big Ben takes a nosedive. And I'm not saying it was correlated with the defensive injuries, but if you get him with you put him with a quarterback. I'm not saying Patrick Mahomes, but you put him with a young, up-and-coming quarterback that has plenty of time.
He just needs one with a liver arm, that's for sure.
And he's not going to go off the deep end like Antonio Brown did.
Right. Plus, well, you hope. And then if you look at the Steelers, their wide receiver group's so deep. And he was the leader of that coming in this year, but Chase Claypool came out of nowhere.
That's the thing right there, because I think many people, myself included, expected James Washington to really have a breakout year this year, and then all of a sudden, I hesitate to say out of nowhere, but out of nowhere, Chase Claypool. I mean, that kid was electric.
We knew he was going to be possibly good coming in, right?
The first year, at least
it was
to that extent.
It was the touchdowns that really got him.
I'm not going to lie, though. I feel like the guy who saw and gave the most impact for the Steelers squad was Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, when he could catch the ball.
Yeah, but it seems like that was Big Ben's favorite target.
It was.
Because all I heard, the majority of the games I've watched Pittsburgh Steelers, it was Deontay Johnson about every 3 or 4 seconds. To me, he's become the number one. I do agree that Chase Claypool has broke out, but to me, if you want to fight to see who's the number one, it's between Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool, and I really want to favor Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, they pushed Juju into the slot, which he wasn't all that comfortable with. He even said he misses being the wide out, right? So wherever he goes, he may get a different scenery there and new opportunity.
Hey, it's all right. I mean, Von Bell put you in your place anyway.
Yes, he did. Von Bell said, you're going to dance on our logo, I'm going to dance on your face with this hit, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, you can dance with the grass.
Yeah, that's exactly what he did. So we got the Steelers and Browns. We thought we had it, but we didn't. The Browns completely took control of that game, and we'll talk about them in just a bit. Saturday, the first game of the day, 4:35 Eastern time. We all know what that means here. Los Angeles and Green Bay. It's going to be a really nasty, typical cold Green Bay day in January. And the sunny boys out of L.A., right? They're not going to be used to it.
I don't care if it was a sunny day. I can't see the way Green Bay is playing L.A. going in there and winning.
I would really think that as well, but I think the injury to the corner piece of the offensive line and David Bakhtiari being out for the rest of the season, I think that's got to affect that Green Bay offense so much, because like many people have touted out, he's going up against the best defense in the NFL, I think, and if not the best defense, the best defensive players in the NFL in Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald. I really think that is going to affect the game so much because, I mean, with that side, you're not going to have the guy who's basically one of the best left tackles in the NFL guarding your blind side, and so now you're going to have to deal with most likely Aaron Donald. I assume is going to have like 2 or 3 sacks. It's going to be a terrible day for Aaron Rodgers. But here's the thing: Aaron Rodgers is so good that it may not even matter. He still might be able to get the ball to Devontae Adams or Robert Tonyan or whoever's out there trying to catch a ball. But I just think it's going to be a lot tougher than anybody thinks it's going to be.
Well, and I had a buddy who's a Rams fan, and he was like, I like Los Angeles' chances, but it all depends on who shows up.
Yeah.
Jared Goff or Jared Goof.
Yeah, well,
that's true.
And for Rodgers, he's one of those guys, like you talk about elite quarterbacks that are coming off a bye week too. Like he has had plenty of time. He's good to go. He thrives in this type of cold weather environment. The thing is, though, like you said, Levi, and it comes down to this for me is Jalen Ramsey on Devontae Adams because. Yes, DK Metcalf scored 2 touchdowns last week, but one was a garbage time score, and one was he just happened to get free completely deep in the secondary. Other than that, he was completely shut down. Now, Devontae Adams is a little bit of a different beast, but if Jalen Ramsey does that and forces the other receivers to make plays, then you're asking for a tougher competition.
If it has to be anybody but Devontae Adams, that could spell disaster for Green Bay. But also, I just got to wonder, the Green Bay defense, sometimes it's hit or miss. They have a lot of really great players. I mean, Jair Alexander is so amazing.
Yeah, he's great.
And they got a lot of other great players on that squad, but sometimes they don't show up.
Yeah.
And that if Jared Goff, or as Zach put, Jared Goof, it depends. It'll also depend on what Jared Goff you get, because if you get the guy who can truly sometimes knock down some beautiful passes, then it could be a scary game for Green Bay. But if it's the guy who, I mean, a backup could look better and he's still worrying about what's wrong with his thumb, then I could easily see Green Bay just plowing past Jared Goff.
But this year, when was the last time we've actually seen the real Jared Goff? And that means the one that's actually going out there and is going to make you big plays. Like, it's been a long time.
It's been like a couple months.
I mean, even more than that. Like, you go back to way early in the season, he looked okay, but they were still a really run-heavy offense.
Yeah.
The best game of this year for him back when they beat the Bucs. The team was still in the playoffs, and he looked awesome. He was making plays. He was throwing the ball really well. That was like Super Bowl season Jared Goff. And since then, terrible. And he's dealt with the thumb injury. He's removed from the injury report. They're not going to use Wolford. He's still out with that neck injury.
Basically broke his neck.
Yeah, pretty much. That was bad. So it's all Jared Goff. Like, it's do or die. Cooper Kupp is questionable, but I would be very shocked if he missed this game. He's dealing with some knee stuff, but I would think he has to be out there still. They're going to be tough to trust if Jared Goff doesn't have it going. That's the biggest frustration I have with the Rams, is that they have the weapons to throw to, and Jared Goff, I think, is good enough. But, man, this year they have gone completely away from their open air raid attack, and it's like we're going to run the ball to nausea, and we're going to play defense and rely on our defense and just think of Jared Goff as an afterthought. Because I really think this, and I wonder what you guys think. I don't think Sean McVay trusts Jared Goff anymore.
Oh, yeah. I don't think that's anything new. I mean, Jared Goff has always been just a system quarterback there. Whenever he got to the Rams, he was so rough around the edges that you had to close your eyes to even get a look. And that shows you never wanted to even take a look at him. But then as the years have gone on, and it's because he's been in the Sean McVay system, he's gotten so much better. But the thing is, when you compare him to all the rest of the quarterbacks in the playoffs, he's the worst one by far. So there's no way you can trust him if you're Sean McVay. And I mean, with Cam Akers and the way that he's been playing, I'd rather trust him.
Yeah, Cam Akers is a beast, that's for sure.
The problem is because Jared Goff is so bad at the quarterback spot, their wide receivers, their tight end, they have so much talent on that squad. You just don't have the guy at the quarterback spot that can unlock that true potential, and he takes up so much money, you have no choice but to play him.
Yeah, the Rams have let me down too many times this year to be fully confident in them. Plus, the Packers are playing really good football. They just come off a bye week. It's Aaron Rodgers, man. He's the MVP for a reason, right? I think he's going to show it again. So I think, Zach, you're going with the Packers, right?
Yeah.
I'm doing it too. Yeah. What you think, Levi? I know this one's one you were different on.
I know that defense is good, but I think Jared Goof's going to show up.
Goof.
So I'm taking the Packers.
I like that.
The thing is, every time I've tried to count Green Bay as they're the team, they always end up not showing up. And I really think that this path by the Rams, it's them trying to make the statement, mainly by Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, that they are Hall of Famers and that this is going to be their Hall of Fame run. Sometimes there's been teams that it's literally the defense dragging the offense just hand in hand, like grabbing them by their hair into the Super Bowl and forcing them to play good. And I think this might be their case of trying to do that. I'm going to go the Los Angeles Rams.
Ooh, it's like your pick last week with the Browns, but you were right there.
I hope we're not wrong again.
That's going to be bad, right? Come back next week.
Tell me it doesn't sound what like Green Bay would do, where it's sometimes you're counting them all the way in, and then it happened like 2 or 3 times early in the season. They lose a game where it's like, there's no way you lose this, and they get blown out.
Yeah, I could. I mean, I didn't pick them to beat the Seahawks. None of us did last week, but that was all defense. Like Seattle's offense, oh my gosh, it was also just completely not there. That's the difference, though. The Packers' offense, it's shown up for pretty much this entire season, minus a couple of games, and I just expect Aaron Rodgers to ball out. I really do.
It wouldn't surprise me either, but I really think the injury to David Bakhtiari is going to be way too much. Okay. I really think that if you load up Aaron Donald on that side, it's going to be devastating. If not, you could have Leonard Floyd. Leonard Floyd has had an amazing season, 10 sacks this season. He got the redemption that he could never get in Chicago. He actually looks really good, so it wouldn't surprise me if you put one of those guys on either side. It's going to be a tough day for Aaron Rodgers.
Could be a fun one, no doubt. That's at 3:35 tomorrow. When we come back, Ravens and Bills might be the most interesting game. I think a lot of people would agree with that of the weekend. Browns at Chiefs, and then Bucks at Saints. We'll give you our picks next.
Yeah, run it back, tell them what I'm coming at. I was on the shit there, now I'm done with that. Scared of what I didn't want, scared of what I wanted, and thought that I was finished, but I hardly had begun. In fact, I'm a beast.
Welcome back in Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio. Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster, Levi Peckinpah. Levi, did I hear that your show about ready to make a solid comeback?
Oh, I think you heard that right.
Okay.
It'll be Monday.
Are you finally going to start doing stuff again?
Yeah, I'm finally going
to you're finally going to do something
get back to work?
No.
I'm finally going to show up, okay? God. 8 to 10.
8 to 10.
Monday through Thursday.
All right. Good stuff.
Get off my back, Mom.
About time.
Yeah, that'll be good. The old college student section.
For you. But yeah, Monday through Thursday, 8 to 10. It'll be the Old College Sports student section. Can't wait.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. It was good when we had it going on here. It seems like it's been forever, though, since we've had it. So.
It's been 84 years if you've seen that meme.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so excited because I get bored from 8 to 10 at night. I'm just sitting in my chair. It's like, where's
remembering the good times.
I'm just like, it's like, remember when? It's just like I got the old, all that music that you would see in the dog commercials, the dog shelter commercials. Sarah McLachlan playing in the background, like, where's my microphone?
See, I don't even imagine that. I imagine James Franco sitting on the swing set in Pineapple Express eating the burger crying.
That was a good one. I mute those the dog commercials. Like it's like no, can't do it. Yeah,
I don't even mute them. I just change the channel.
Well,
that's how I am.
I don't even want to look at it.
Yeah,
and those commercials, they're like a minute and a half long. Yeah. And I'm just like, come on.
Plenty of time to go get my next beverage. Right?
Hey, at least that's how Sarah McLachlan gets her like royalty checks now. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, she's down with that. She makes a ton of money doing that for sure. All right, Baltimore Ravens, Buffalo Bills, Saturday night, boys. This is a good one.
This, in my opinion, has potential game of the year written all over it.
Yeah, I didn't. Let's see. I have it right here. You did pick the Ravens, Levi. Yeah, and Zach and I picked the Titans, and it came down to the end there. But I said it all this past week. Like, Lamar played well, especially on the ground, did a good job. The Ravens' defense, that was the key. They shut down Derrick Henry.
The Ravens have been missing so many pieces throughout the season, and literally everybody came back and was here in full force.
Well, if you remember last year in the playoffs when the Titans were making their run and when they beat the Patriots and they beat the Ravens, what was the main thing besides Ryan Tannehill doing what he needed to do? Derrick Henry was running all over the place.
Yep.
They ran into Kansas City, and he didn't have a great game, and they lost. They ran into Baltimore this year, didn't have a good game at all, and they lost. If the Titans don't have their run game going, they're not going to win a lot of football games.
Yeah, and remember, I literally said in here.
You did, yeah.
With all these guys that they've added, from Yannick Ngakoue to Calais Campbell, literally they just brought half of Jacksonville over. It was they're going to put a body on him and stop Derrick Henry. That's what they did. And then Lamar Jackson was able to operate. I mean, the way that they were able to operate on offense, that's going to be prime Baltimore Ravens, because literally, even though Lamar Jackson isn't the best in the passing game, the way they run the ball, even though at some points it just seems simple, sometimes the simplest things can easily just outmaneuver and out-provoke a defense. And the way that they are able to make these slight adjustments on the fly just kind of tore up Tennessee.
Yeah, and the Bills' defense, it's not great like it used to be, but
honestly, it should be really great.
Really with the playmakers they have.
But it's a defense that has so much talent but doesn't live up to the potential.
Yeah, and they've got a lot of, Tre'Davious White back there making plays all day, and they've got a bunch of guys that are able to come out there at any point and shut down a potential run game. But this is a different run game with Baltimore. It's what they do best, better than pretty much anybody in the league. The best thing I saw coming out of this game this week was they asked Lamar Jackson. They said, "Hey, Lamar, it's going to be snowing in Buffalo when you go out there and play. You ever played in snow before?" And he goes, "Nope." He's like, not feeling great about that because we all know what can happen to a run game in the snow. That would be really interesting to see if that does happen. But Baltimore coming into it riding high, they're feeling good. Lamar's got to be feeling great. The fact that he finally won a playoff game. I say fine. but true. It's kind of what I said, and I want to see what you say about this, Levi, because Zach and I talked about it. When I talked about Lamar, like, people came out and were like, oh, immediately he got the playoff game, and we can stop saying that he hasn't won one, and, at the same time, that was actually, if you think about it, a stupid argument because he's only been in the league so many years. But my response to that was, like, I didn't realize we were holding Lamar Jackson to such a low standard here. Like, he is the MVP of the league, and he goes in there with a pretty talented team these past few years, and I thought it was okay to criticize him that he hasn't won a playoff game.
I mean, it's all right. I guess it's a weird thing because we put so many different players in so many different bubbles. There's so many guys that we hold up to a higher standard because they've already hit these levels of accomplishment. Then there's some guys we just let go by just with barely anything. I mean, think about it. We are criticizing some guys so extremely hard, like Tua Tagovailoa. He's barely gotten to do anything in the NFL, and I truly don't know if he's really been able to do much on offense, and I think it's because he's still maybe not fully implemented into the Miami Dolphins system, and we're criticizing the heck out of him while there's some other guys that barely get a pass by. And Lamar Jackson, just because he's always had this much hype, whether it's he's won the Heisman, he's won MVP, he's on a really, really great team, and again, he's only in truly, I assume it would be his second full year as a starter. So it's one of those guys that has kind of hit all these benchmarks way too quick, and the dude's only 24. He's hit all these benchmarks, and you got to be like, yeah, you're going to get a lot of criticism because at such a young age, you've done something that a lot of these guys will never do. So I guess because he's hit all those benchmarks, it's fair for criticism. But it's just you got to kind of put things in perspective for some guys because Tua Tagovailoa shouldn't be getting the same criticism as a guy like Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, it's hard to compare those two with the way the sample size and everything that Tua does.
Yeah, because Tua's barely played. He's played what half a full season, and I wouldn't even say half a full season because half the time he's been getting benched for Ryan Tannehill, Ryan Fitzpatrick because he hasn't gotten it figured out. I mean, it's just one of those things where it's just you got to kind of figure out how you weigh your standards. I mean, right now, I guess you could weigh Lamar Jackson with some of the greats because the dude's done something that a lot of quarterbacks never get a chance to do and won an MVP. He's now officially won a playoff game, so you can check that off the little box. Now it's you got to win championships. That's the next standard you got to live up to.
He can really, really shut a lot of people up if he were to beat the Bills this year. The Bills, the way that they're playing, doesn't look like anyone's really having a chance to stop them now. With that being said, the Colts played them a little closer than I thought. Give that defense some credit. But Josh Allen really turned it on towards the second half of that game. Easy to say, by the way, for both of you here, that Stephon Diggs, best trade of the offseason. I mean, how could that have worked out better? And think about it, what the Vikings were able to do, right, with Justin Jefferson. Man, that you don't see a trade work out that well in the NFL very often.
It was one of the best trades in NFL history, not because it was like, oh, it was so overpowered. No, it made two teams actually better in the end because the Vikings got a really good wide receiver for less money. And then the Buffalo Bills finally got their marquee star wide receiver. And I think at this point, Stephon Diggs has earned the title marquee star wide receiver. He's finally put all the doubters in check because there were so many of them in Minnesota with all the targets growing everywhere from mainly a guy like Adam Thielen. But now he's been able to finally put the title up. I am a marquee wide receiver. So it's truly worked out for both sides in a pretty even fashion.
The Bills are 2.5-point favorites. Vegas expecting a tight one here as well. All right, Zach, who do we like in here? Bills, Ravens.
Man, I think the Ravens are going to play well, right? I think Lamar Jackson kind of has that monkey off his back of I can't win a playoff game, and everyone knows it. With that being said, I know that the Colts played the Bills close last weekend, but I don't feel confident that Baltimore can beat Buffalo. I'm certainly not going to say what I did last week. I'm not going to say that the Buffalo Bills are going to win by 14, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did. But I've got Buffalo.
Okay. What are you feeling, Levi?
With my title of that this could be the game of the year, it's going to be close. It's going to be one of those where I think it's going to be like maybe about like a 28-24 type of finish. It's going to be so close that everybody's going to be kind of on the edge of their seat. And I could see this going either way. Vegas has a 2.5 favorite to Buffalo, and I'm going to put that strictly because of the snow, because no one knows what Lamar Jackson looks like in the snow, and neither does Lamar Jackson. I weirdly think that Baltimore is going to take this new environment and take this kind of new aesthetic that Lamar Jackson has to deal with, and I think it's going to take a little time to adjust. I think you might see a pick in the first quarter, but I think that Baltimore is going to slowly adjust. I think a lot of these guys on the defensive side are going to truly enjoy it and have a good time, and I think hopefully put a lot of pressure on Josh Allen. And I'm going to give Baltimore the win here. But here's the thing. I could easily see it flipping and going Buffalo, because I could see with the snow truly potentially tearing up Lamar Jackson and making him kind of unrecognizable, and you easily give it to Buffalo. But for this one, I'm going to go Baltimore, because I would just really love to see Kansas City versus Baltimore more than anything.
Yeah, that would be a fun one again. To me, it comes down again to quarterback play. Mm-hmm. And Josh Allen, had he struggled last week, I'd be a little more wary. Mm-hmm. But he bounced back, and they showed a graphic of how much his accuracy has increased from last year to this year, and it's one of the biggest leaps we've ever seen. He's not missing throws, he's not overthrowing guys, and he's got better weapons, obviously, too, right? Mm-hmm. Stephon Diggs able to catch anything; he's always open, it seems. The same goes for Cole Beasley; he's playing lights out. They found a couple of nice younger guys, right? McKenzie's playing well. They lost Zach Moss; that's kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
So they have to deal with just Devin Singletary, which that's kind of the knock I have on Buffalo, is they still don't quite have that run game that they need to balance out Josh Allen.
Yeah, they got the Swift back, but you need a power back to go with it, which I think that's what they were hoping to get in Zach Moss, but Zach Moss has not provided much this season.
Well, and you're okay with Josh Allen throwing 45 times a game. Like, it's a pass-heavy attack, that's fine. Mm-hmm. But you do need to balance it out a little bit.
Yeah, and you're going to want to watch that matchup between Marlon Humphreys and Stephon Diggs. That's going to be as great of a matchup as Devontae Adams versus Jalen Ramsey, because Marlon Humphreys is also on the rise.
Yeah, I just think that it's going to come down to, Lamar Jackson's going to have to throw the ball quite a bit. And that means that he's probably going to be at some point chasing points, because I think Buffalo can take care of this team. Now, if they get into it's going to come down to a low-scoring type affair, that's where you start leaning more towards the Ravens' way, because they do have a really good ability to take chunks of time off the clock by running the football all day. Buffalo likes to get down the field and score, right? Like, that's their mentality. So all that, I think it's a little too big of a stage for Lamar Jackson. Now, he could shock a lot of people. And if he beat Buffalo and moves on to the AFC Championship, just get ready. I mean, I can already see the articles and hear all the talking heads. Oh, this is Lamar's year. This is Lamar's year.
I'm gonna raise my hand also at that point, because
you know what Josh Allen is? I said this a bunch of times. He's your rich man's Lamar Jackson. Like, he's who the Ravens fans want Lamar Jackson to be. Why? Because he can sling it, he can move it on the ground, Lamar's not quite there yet.
I was gonna say I compared Josh Allen to a low budget Patrick Mahomes, and I mean the lowest of budget.
Hey, he's playing lights out, man. I love watching Josh Allen. He's a ton of fun. So I'm gonna take the Bills too. 2.5. Yeah, I think they can cover that 3-point victory. Yeah. That's an interesting line. It's shifted for sure a little bit this week. All right, Browns at Chiefs. Baker Mayfield riding high after dethroning the Steelers and TikTok star Juju Smith-Schuster.
At least give him the congratulations. I mean, you got a win for Cleveland.
Hey, I think
they've already won.
Yeah, he played well, but honestly, he didn't even have to play lights out or anything. Nah. Their run game was taking care of business. Their defense was saying, Big Ben, you're going to throw a pick every other throw, and took care of him there. So, but he did play. He's really turned on his last half of the season. I'll give him credit where it's due. He has almost, I think, taken that next step to where he needs to be. But he comes in right now against the Chiefs. It's just that when you look at Kansas City, I rattled off the numbers the other day to Zach. Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes coming off of buys. They haven't scored less than 30 points off of bye week. Yeah, you give them extra time to prepare, it's not good. So the Browns know they had their hands full here. Now, the Chiefs are not, as I also said to Zach, the Chiefs are not taking the Browns lightly like they would in years before. And there's a lot of people that are like, hey, this could be a 3-touchdown game. I don't know if I buy it that far because this is a really competitive Browns team.
If we're talking 3 touchdowns in the first quarter by Patrick Mahomes, maybe.
Yeah. And maybe we might see some sort of a shootout. But if that's the case, I don't think the Browns can win a shootout. And that's going to come down to how they run the ball. You know, if Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb are gashing the Chiefs on the ground every single time, like we've seen that plenty of times with Chiefs defense in the recent history, right? So if that's the case, that's where you start struggling. But bottom line, you can't give Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, all these guys almost 3 weeks to prepare and stay fresh. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough time for Cleveland. I will say, basically at this point, Cleveland has already won. They've achieved something that nobody ever thought that was going to happen. They're actually a winning team right now. Kevin Stefanski, I mean, he's by far should be coach of the year. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. They've won a playoff game. No one ever thought that was going to happen, I think, in my lifetime or anybody else's lifetime. I thought for the rest of eternity, Cleveland was just terrible. But they've done so much past everybody's expectations. So it wouldn't surprise me if we have another miracle, but I think it's Patrick Mahomes, it's Andy Reid, it's the mystique and the mayhem of Kansas City. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think whenever it comes to this, I think this will be the first time that you'll see for Cleveland, they are out of their league right now. I think you give them another year or two, this game becomes a lot closer and a lot different. But because this is kind of their first peek into big playoff games, because we could all tell Pittsburgh they were not in the right state of mind or in the right state at all
from the first snap.
Yeah, from the first snap, it was never going to be a good game for Pittsburgh. But for a true playoff game, true playoff people, I think that this will be Cleveland's first look into it. I think they're going to lose. I think this is going to be Kansas City all the way, and it wouldn't surprise me if it's kind of a blowout. But give it a couple more years and we go back to this matchup, this might be a completely different thing.
You know, Zach, in case you need a little more incentive towards Kansas City,
okay.
I told Levi before the show that Patrick Mahomes decided to go ahead and like that tweet that Odell put out about don't be surprised if they win.
I'm all for more fuel. You know, I mean, I'm a reasonable guy, right? I need all angles, all information before I can make a sound decision, and that's a chalk in the Kansas City column.
Did you also tell him about Chase Claypool going on live streams and talking? I mean, that's the one in Cleveland's corner.
Chase Claypool said that the Cleveland was going to get clapped by the Chiefs. This is words.
And they were saying, and he was saying,
in case you didn't know what that means, Zach, like
I do.
Yeah, it's a young term. We're trying to tell you about.
It's 100p.
I was curious about that.
And then I think it was either on the same stream or a different stream talking about like if they would have done their celebration in like a better manner. It's like, come on, it's coming from the Corvette guys.
It is.
Yeah. So I said this earlier this week. I feel like not practicing all week, not having your head coach. You make the playoffs for the first time in 18 years. You win a playoff game for, I don't think did they win one 18 years ago, or does this streak go back further?
Oh, I'm pretty sure the streak goes back further.
I think it just made it back.
So they haven't won a playoff game in God knows how long. they got their win. I know that they're talented and Baker Mayfield's playing well. I don't think it's going to matter. I really don't. I don't care how much Chase Claypool comes out and says stuff. I don't care if Juju comes out and does another dance on a green screen Cleveland Brown field.
What about Kareem Hunt? He said it's personal.
Personal for what? You got yourself kicked off the team. That's your own fault.
Isn't that wild?
It's different if they just traded you because they needed a new copier machine. But it's
personal.
Okay, Kyle Korver.
I mean, it's not personal. You're a moron. Yeesh.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What's the spread?
10.
It's going to be more. I don't think it'll be less than 10. I think it'll be.
I don't think it'll change.
I think we're talking like 2 points.
It started 10.5, I think, and it's now down to 10.
Yeah,
so.
I could see it being easy 14.
I'm with that as well, but I'm telling you, give it 2 more years, this matchup becomes completely different because Cleveland, they're missing just a couple pieces to actually seem like a really good team. For one, if they get Odell back, this is completely different. But they need some linebackers. They need a lot of guys. There still needs to be some guys back healthy because offensive linemen were going out in spades against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's all about head coaching for me with the Browns because last year, Freddie Kitchens, oh my gosh, like the culture there was just super toxic. Like nothing was going well for the Browns. There was no accountability for anybody. We saw that clearly with the Myles Garrett situation.
And then Kevin Stefanski comes.
Kevin Stefanski just completely wiped it all off and said, "Here's how we're doing things, and look where they are." I mean, he's done a fantastic job.
Yep, and I don't know who truly said that. I can't remember. I think it might have been Colin Cowherd, but this was establishing a culture. This is what it was, and you've established it for Cleveland, but it's time to run into the buzzsaw, at least at this point, of the Kansas City Chiefs. This is an L. Yeah,
I'm going with Kansas City, and a lot of people like to point out, which is fair. I mean, they've won a game like more than 6 or 7 points in the last 6 or 7 weeks. But if you look back in those games, a lot of garbage time touchdowns towards the end that make it seem closer than it is if you really look at it. But Kansas City, they have their weaknesses. I mean, it's fair to say they really do. And it's going to depend on they got to come out and score early. No early 3 and outs. Don't give Cleveland any type of chance to come out and score because that's all they need, right? Cleveland comes out, scores a quick touchdown, you get a stop, they score another one. Next thing you know, it's like, oh man, Cleveland's are they the team right now? Are they got the ride high? Now we know the Chiefs can come back from anything, but still, you don't play that game with the way that the Browns are playing. So going Kansas City, but they do got to be careful. I think they can cover the 10-point spread before it's all said and done. It is certainly doable. When we come back, the Senior Bowl is going on as well Sunday night. Great grandpa Tom Brady, right? And old man Drew Brees going at it. They're going to wheel themselves in, get on the canes, and head out the field and play a football game.
Got to bring them some oatmeal and applesauce for a halftime snack.
We'll give you our picks for them coming up next.
Whoa.
Welcome back. Afternoon Sports Drive. We're rounding out this first hour, giving you our final look at the NFL divisional round games. The Senior Bowl, as I call it. But, to be fair, it's actually pretty cool because it could be the last time, really, could be the last time we see this matchup.
Can we change this to the Senior Citizen Bowl? Because when you said the Senior Bowl, I was I was thinking like, oh wait, we're going to talk about that Senior Bowl?
Yeah, no,
I was like, Tylen Wallace going to talk about all those guys going to that Senior Bowl?
The Senior Citizen Bowl. I'll reset that there for you. Yeah, that's, but, will we ever see Drew Brees, Tom Brady again?
Probably not, to be honest, because I'm pretty sure that Drew Brees is retiring after this and he's going to the booth.
That's the thing, yeah. It sounds like he will. Pretty much said that after his postseason run, he's probably going to be done. Now, I always, when players say that, I always kind of just give it a little bit and let it simmer. Because if they don't win a Super Bowl, we tend to see them be like, all right, one more run, right? Like, let's come back, try it again.
That's why I'm hesitant on Larry Fitzgerald ever retiring. I'm just sitting here like, please no. Wait, did he come out and say he was retiring?
I don't think so.
I don't think he did, and please goodness, I hope he didn't, because Larry Fitzgerald is a man of myth and one of the best wide receivers of all time.
He's up there on the records, and I think close to catches, right, yards, all that stuff.
He's literally just missing a ring.
Yeah, that's true.
Honestly, they're not that far off from being a playoff team.
Yeah, they should have been this year, that's for sure.
It's just they're in the toughest division in the NFL.
And, we got to see Tom Brady was always, he's poking some fun this week, as always. And there's been a lot of funny memes about the ages of these two quarterbacks. Who, by the way, combined age, because Drew Brees just turned 42, a combined age of 85 years old here at quarterback.
That makes me feel young. Thank goodness.
It's pretty amazing because you have Aaron Rodgers, who is not a young person by any means in the NFL, and you have Drew Brees, and you have Tom Brady, all still alive in the NFC. And then it's on the kind of complete opposite in the AFC.
It's the new generation.
Young Josh Allen, young Lamar Jackson, young Patrick Mahomes, young Baker Mayfield.
The new generation versus the old generation. That's weird.
It is pretty weird to see.
And then Jared Goff's in the middle.
Yeah,
like,
Jared Goff's
hey,
hey, yeah, I'm over here too. Don't forget about me. Yeah, Jared Goof. I love that name. Tampa Bay at the Saints. This is, I think, honestly, I talk about interesting games because started off the season. We were all excited that we got to see this matchup to start off the season. Well, then Tom Brady, complete disaster, right? Was throwing interceptions. Bruce Arians comes out and he's like, Tom didn't look good, right? He was like basically dogging him. And then they come back later in the year and looked even worse. That was the worst I've ever seen Tom Brady play in my entire life. It was a complete disaster. Now it's a new Bucs team.
3 times the charm?
It's third time around. They have plenty to go off of here. They've won their last 5 games. Tom Brady's thrown like 20 touchdowns in that span. He's looking good. Bruce Arians is allowing play action to work. He's not saying, "Hey, we need you to force it 50 yards down the field." And Tom's like, "Dude, I don't want to do that." And now they're not making him do that. They're letting him adapt to this style, and it's working out now. They're hitting all their strides at the right time. By the way, the Antonio Brown thing's working out, right? I mean, these last few weeks, he's really come alive.
Why out of all the things does that gotta work?
Yeah, and so you got all your receivers. We talked about all these weapons coming in, how dangerous Tampa Bay was going to be. Well, they're hitting that at the right time, which is the thing. Now, the Saints took care of the Bears. We all knew that was going to happen. Michael Thomas is back. Big time plus. Alvin Kamara, healthy. Big time plus. Drew Brees, I give him so much credit. It wasn't that long ago where he broke 11 ribs and had his lung punctured, and he's back here playing in the playoffs. Tough as nails. And the defense has stepped up through the roof. That Saints defense. You got the Bucs defense has been good for most of the season. They need to be good for one more game here to try to move on. I think this is a really, really interesting matchup. I do not expect a blowout like we've seen twice this season. This is going to be a tough one all the way down to it.
I kind of want it to be a blowout, and I want it to be the Bucs getting blowout again, because that means most likely Bruce Arians gets fired, and then you bring in a new head coach.
The Saints are only 3-point favorites, by the way, at home, and that's because they're just at home.
So, am I wrong to say that if the Saints blow out the Bucs for a third time, that he might be fired?
I don't think so, because Tom Brady, it's going to depend on Tom saying, "Hey, here's what he'll do. I'll come back to the Bucs, but Bruce Arians got to go."
Yeah.
Right? If that happens, then we might see it. But Bruce would fight that tooth and nail. Like, he's the type of coach that's not going to go out quietly if that happens.
Who are you taking, though? You taking Bruce Arians, or you taking Tom Brady?
Oh, if it were 3 or 4 years ago, Tom Brady, I would probably take Tom Brady.
Well, but the way he's playing now, it's just like, man, can that happen again for a full season next year?
That's the big risk that you have to take.
But it's not like Bruce Arians has done anything before him.
No, but
there's a drop off after Tom Brady. It's Tom Brady. Then who's after Tom Brady?
Yeah, but they could go out and get another quarterback.
I don't know about that, man.
Don't think so? You don't think an NFL franchise could go get a quarterback?
Jameis Winston, they just bring him back.
Yeah, bring back Jameis Winston.
But if you're an owner, if you're a GM, you have to say, do we keep a head coach or do we keep a guy that may break a shoulder trying to throw a pass?
Yeah,
that's too big of a risk.
Towards the end of the season, though, the way that they've played and the way that Arians has switched his coaching style, even if they get blown out, I don't think you're going to see that. Because Brady would be disappointed, obviously, that they didn't get there. He's already said, though, he wants to play a couple more years. So I think that would stay the way that we've seen it right now. Yeah, it's crazy. He's in the way he's playing, right? It's not like he's
I hope he just falls off the face of the earth.
It's not like he's like a disaster to his team and bringing them down. Like he's propelling this team right now.
40-plus touchdowns this year, and you're sitting here like, this man's older than dirt.
Yeah, and he played against a good Washington defense last week and beat them. So, and he played really well. So I give him a lot of credit. I'll tell you boys right now, I'm going with it. I know the Saints just cracked them open both times. But Tom Brady's I trust Tom Brady in the playoffs. As much as I'd love to see Drew Brees get back to an NFC championship, because you know what? How many years in a row he was one play away from even getting into the playoffs? They got over that hump this year. No Minnesota Miracle this year, and they beat the Bears. They're right where they want to be. So I'd love it for Drew Brees, but I don't think they're going to have enough to get it done against this Bucs team.
If I remember right, I said last week that there truly weren't any teams that I can say have the hot hand this year. I think I'm going to correct myself because I think it's not teams, it's players. It's Tom Brady. He's looking like a young Tom Brady. Not like very young. I'm talking like a 38-year-old Tom Brady. He's looking okay. He's looking pretty good. 40-plus touchdowns this season. And I think it's him finally catching that second win that some players get, and he's going to propel himself for at least another couple of years. I'll also go Tampa Bay because I just think it's going to be Tom Brady, because we've seen at least some parts during the season that the Saints go a little weak on the defensive side. And I think it's finally Tom Brady getting the push off and getting past truly the one team this season that he hasn't been able to get past, and that is the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, it's true. It's been weird that he hasn't been able to do that.
It's just one brick wall.
Yeah. Zach, what are you thinking here? Saints, Bucs. We got the Senior Citizen Bowl now.
Yeah, I think Brady, like you said, Brady is playing really well right now. I just think that Saints offense is just going to be too much. I think you got that. You got Alvin Kamara out of the backfield. I think Drew Brees is going to be able to do enough. What's the spread? What did you say it was?
Only 3, and that's just because
in favor of
Saints. That's just because they're home.
I think they'll win, and I think they'll cover. Mm-hmm. I think they'll cover.
Yeah, if they win, I think they would cover too.
They're not going to win a squeaker.
Yeah, but I think the Bucs. You know what? When they win, for what I'm saying, I think they do take that down to the wire. So that's going to be. We talk about the Bills and the Ravens being the most interesting. Keep your eye on this one. It could actually be the most interesting before it's all said and done.
Geriatrics Bowl.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and it's just. I think it'll be for those that are fans of the NFL. Like, you love or hate Tom Brady, I get it. But this could very well be the last time we see this matchup ever.
You got to respect greatness.
Yeah, which is something that a lot of people are going to want to enjoy one more time. All right, real quick, Levi, before you got to go. We saw a couple of coaching changes yesterday. Mm-hmm. Zach and I talked about Urban Meyer before it actually officially happened. We knew it was going to happen, and it did. Then Robert Saleh, the former 49ers defensive coordinator, taking over the helpless New York Jets. I said earlier, and I'll let you give your piece here, the only thing I'll say is I think this is a good hire. And I told you guys on the break, I don't give credit to the Jets ever because they really don't ever deserve it. But they did their research, and I think they got the right guy.
To me, there was only 2 big coaching targets that you could get in the NFL this season. It was Eric Bieniemy and it was Saleh. And with the Jets getting this and already having a fabulous defense, they truly have a lot of really great defensive players. You're having that guy who, altogether, it just seems like he's had such a sound system over these past couple years, and you implement that with the Jets. To me, that seems like it's going to be a match made in heaven. Of course, they'll get an offensive coordinator to truly figure it out and try to figure out with whoever they get, most likely. I assume it's going to be Justin Fields, but you never know. It might be like a Zach Wilson. There's a lot of guys they could pick up in the draft. I don't think it's going to be Sam Darnold, but I think Robert Saleh is the perfect head coach for the Jets, and to me, that's an A+ get.
Hey, all the Jets are saying is Urban, come on, think about it now. It's Justin Fields. Do it. You want to do it, and then they can just get Trevor Lawrence like they always planned.
Oh, yeah, just like they always planned. By the way, another head coach that is going to be, this time it's going to be a head coach in Atlanta. The Falcons got OC Arthur Smith from Tennessee.
Yeah, he did a fantastic job at Tennessee. I think that's a really good hire, too. It's all going to depend on can Matt Ryan keep it going, though.
Oh, yeah, maybe with that you could also see if you can get Todd Gurley going.
I'm going to tell you right now, you can't. I'm afraid you can't.
Try to get some arthritis out of those knees.
All right, Levi, we appreciate it as always, man. Thanks for sticking around. And what you got going on? You got some basketball stuff to cover?
Oh, yeah, going to be going over to Ponca City with Jordan Woodruff and covering some Ponca City basketball.
Okay, and then, of course, Monday, your show's back on.
Yep, Monday will be the start back of the Ocali Sports student section.
Perfect. We can't wait for that.
8 to 10, baby.
8 to 10. There's Levi. Zach and I will be back with hour number 2, and we're going to get TJ Eckert's going to join us here to start off the second hour as well. It's coming up here on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
Group.
And I don't know how we make it out when we make out on the low. Even if it rains, you'd rather make it snow. Both you and me know we gotta let it go. Laying on the ground, wondering why it's so cold. How we make it out when we make out on the low. Even if it rains, you'd rather make it snow. Both you and me know we gotta let it go.
Welcome back. Hour number 2, afternoon sports drive on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network with Patrick Wheeler and Zach Lancaster. Friday edition as we get you ready for your weekend. You're here in the right spot. And joining us now is TJ Eckert from KTUL, sports director over there. TJ, thanks so much for coming on, man. It's been a while since we got to talk to you, and I was telling you on the phone there before we got you on, I was hoping we'd get to go into a little bit more Bedlam stuff, but not the case today.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I was really looking forward to the Bedlam match, but I think a lot of people were. It was kind of an exciting one with, obviously Cade Cunningham being there, but a pretty solid OU team coming into Stillwater as well against a good OSU team. So it's been a really good matchup. I know they have said postponed, and they're looking to reschedule, and the thought right now is maybe the end of the Big 12 calendar, which is where the other Bedlam game is too. So maybe we get back-to-back Bedlam. I don't know, but wish we had it tomorrow because it would have been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I really would. I wouldn't complain if we had back-to-back Bedlam. I'd be okay with that. And before we're gonna get into some of that here in a minute, but I wanted. So this was funny. Yesterday, I'm scrolling through Outkick. And I think you know where I'm going with this. I clicked on an article about an Oklahoma cheerleader, and she made her midget car debut. And I scrolled down, and there's a link to TJ Eckert's report there that she did. And I thought it was pretty cool because Outkick is a big growing site. But tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I didn't know anything about it until one of my buddies sent me a screenshot. I was like, hey, your story made it to Outkick. I was like, oh, that's sweet. Yeah. Taylor Reimer's her name. She's an OU cheerleader. She went to Bixby, so she's a local girl. Cheers at OU, but before she was a cheerleader, she raced dirt track races, midget cars and modifieds and all those type things. And winningest female driver at Port City Raceway here down around our area, which is kind of a big deal. And so, this isn't just like some charity event where we're just throwing a cheerleader behind the wheel in the Chili Bowl. Like, she's legit. And makes her Chili Bowl debut this week. And she ran earlier this week and did okay, not bad. I don't know how familiar everybody is with the Chili Bowl, but she essentially made it to the B feature on her qualifying night and finished about 5th. So, on Saturday, every driver makes it to Saturday, which is the final day, and she'll probably be above middle of the pack in terms of features. It's called Alphabet Soup. A is the main feature, the finals, and they start at the beginning of the day with like letter W or so. I don't even know where they start, and you essentially work your way up to the A main, the finals, and so she's probably going to be around, I don't know, F or G. So she's in a decent spot. If she can keep racing well, she may be able to crawl a few more spots. So, yeah, very cool story. She was an awesome interview. I enjoy those stories. I enjoy the Chili Bowl just because there's so many unique stories that come out of there. And, yeah, it was cool to see it on Outkick. I'm not sure if it was on Outkick because of the journalistic integrity and quality that I put into the story, or if it was because of Taylor. But we'll go with the first one.
Well, if you read enough Outkick, you'll know that you go in those stories and like they give you the story, and then underneath it's like, let me show you, by the way, some Instagram posts here or something like that of the cheerleader, exactly. Right? So that's what I was going to ask you. Was like, did somebody from Outkick like reach out and say, hey, can we use this? But you said that one of your friends was like, hey, I just found it.
Yep, I had no idea, no clue. Had no idea. Nobody. Clay Travis didn't reach out. I didn't hear anything from Whitlock or any of those guys either. So
I had $20 on 5 minutes or less with TJ getting a shameless Bigsby plug-in.
It didn't say, and the under hit.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, it did. It absolutely did. Hey, it's a good one. We like that. TJ Eckert joined us here, the afternoon sports drive. All right, TJ. So we talked about Oklahoma State here just a little bit, and they're got that win over Kansas, but the story was coming into that they had big leads on virtually everybody they'd played, and they couldn't hold on to them, and that was the case against Kansas. Sitting there watching that game, and they're holding a 16-point lead, and things are looking good. Then all of a sudden, the same movie I've seen multiple times started to play again this season for them. So, but what were your thoughts about them being able to kind of seal that win at the end there over the 6th-ranked team in the country?
Yeah, the exact same thought process. In fact, I had a friend who was at the game, and whenever they got up by 15 or 16 at one point, they were late in the second half, and he texted me and he said, let's see if they can hold on to this one. And like, well, this is your fault for texting me this because you're kind of jinxing it. But no, Mike Boyden put it perfectly after the game. I think the question was something like, what do you guys take away from this? And he said, the fact that we won. I mean, that was it. I mean, just keep it simple. I mean, the fact that you were able to win a game when you were leading and then blow a lead. I mean, sometimes it's just a mentality thing, because he mentioned it a few times in the post game. They had been hearing for a while now that they weren't good at holding leads, that they weren't good at finishing games. So just the simple fact of finishing a game finally was the biggest thing for them. And the big question right now is who's going to kind of develop into that second scorer behind Cade. And there's still a group of guys who are still trying to contribute to that. Obviously, likely hits a huge three there in the corner that really kept him in the game, period, which was nice to see. And he's played solid and has really kind of expanded his role in a way, being more aggressive. So there's one guy. And then Rondell Walker's been really impressive to me, too. And you guys unfortunately, we can't go and shoot games, so I'm only getting to watch on TV.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure how much you guys are around the team in terms of Zooms or in the arena, but man, that dude is a spark plug. I love watching him play. So he's been fun to watch. So it's an exciting team and a really big win, not just because it's Kansas, but again, like going back to Mike Boynton, because they just simply won. That was the big thing.
Yeah, and I agree. Rondell's been from game one. He's really been a guy that stepped up big this year at a young age. It's been fun to watch. So you talked about Cade there a little bit, but give me your honest opinion of him so far in where we are in this season, because we've seen a lot of ups and we've seen some games where hasn't been maybe as electric as some people would think. But overall, what are your thoughts on how Cade's played, and is he looking like the number one pick in the NBA draft to you?
He's been impressive, and I would not be. I still think he's the top pick in the draft. I try not to judge on a game by game or a possession by possession basis, because recency bias is a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you look at the total, the full product that he's put out so far, the dude plays with a pace that you don't see from a freshman, right? I mean, he seems to always be in control. He's the guy that kind of runs the show, and he runs it at whatever pace he wants to run it at, right? And then he's very good at setting up teammates, but then we've seen it a few times. That stretch he had there early in the first half, or maybe it's the first half against Kansas, where he hits 2 or 3 threes, a little step back, mid-range jumper. I mean, there's times he can just simply take over the game, and it's almost like he can do it whenever he wants. It's not necessarily there's not like a switch that flips. It's almost just like okay, I'm just going to go score like 8 really quick here. And he has that ability to do that. I mean, getting guarded by the defensive player of the year in Marcus Garrett. I mean, that's and being able to do that against a guy like that. And he's got the length, he's got the size of an NBA guard. So as far as the number one pick side of things, I still think he's played well enough to do that. And even in the games, the game at Kansas State where he only takes 3 or 4 field goal attempts or whatever the number was, doesn't score much, but he's facilitating. He has energy on the defensive end. He's doing all the other things that don't show up in the box score, and that sounds so cliche and coach speaky to say, but it's true. If you watch those games, he is the difference maker on both ends of the floor, and it doesn't just have to be in the box score in the points column.
Well, and I think what's so important about his performance against Kansas this past week is we've seen him score 20 plus points in multiple games and get real close to it, and we see him facilitate. But I think what was so important for me anyway is the fact that he got off to such a hot start in the first half. That was something that we hadn't really seen, and we knew with Kansas coming in, they're going to need Cade Cunningham to put up a lot of points really quickly to kind of set that tone, and that's something he went out and he did.
Yeah, agreed. He's again a guy that it seems if he wants to, he can take over a game, and it's almost that LeBron factor, right? Where LeBron can literally score on every possession he wants, but he knows that that's not the way that you win. And so there's times where it seems like Cade maybe falls into that. I am not comparing him to LeBron, but he falls into that LeBron mentality of I need to get other guys involved first, and then sometimes that messes up your own rhythm. So, could he go out and it's the argument between like the Trae Young when he was in Norman, right? I mean, dude just went out and shot it whenever he got the ball. He would score 40, but they would lose games because nobody else was getting in rhythm and nobody else was scoring. So, I mean, how many shots did Trae take in Stillwater that year? I mean, gosh, that was ridiculous. However many shots, I can't remember the box score.
That was 30. It was more than 30.
Yes, that's what I think. Cade falls into any trap. It's the trap of trying to get other guys involved, and he runs himself out of rhythm sometimes. So, we can sit here and say, well, he needs to be a little more assertive on the offensive end, and when he does, he's been great. But at the same time, he's getting other guys involved and getting them in rhythm as well. So it's a fine line, but I like the side of the line he's standing on right now.
TJ Eckert joining us here on the afternoon sports drive. You've got Baylor and Texas still at the top in the Big 12, and Kansas will probably always hanging around for the most part. But what's your realistic expectations for Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, where they might finish this year in the conference?
Yeah, right now it seems like it's hard with West Virginia with Tshiebwe out, or Tshiebwe gone now. I guess he committed to Kentucky. Those four, Kansas, Baylor, Texas, West Virginia, Texas Tech, those kind of 4 or 5 teams right there seem like the top. And then OU can kind of funnel in either at 5 or 6, 7, somewhere there. I think those are the 7 teams that are going to make the tournament. I think it's Kansas State, Iowa State, TCU, who might be on the outside looking in. TCU they're talented enough to maybe pick up some wins late in the season to maybe squeak in. But there's realistically 7 teams in the Big 12 that will likely get in, assuming they don't cannibalize each other and, really screw up their records. But I think OU OSU are right there in the middle of the pack, and that's not a bad thing. Normally when you say that, it's like, well, that sounds like an average basketball team. But OU and OSU both are super talented. They're both teams that can win a game in the tournament. They're teams that could win potentially 2 games in the NCAA tournament. Both teams are really heavy guard laden, and that's huge when it comes to March and NCAA tournament stuff. OU is experienced. OSU has star power, so they both have elements that can carry them into the NCAA tournament. And again, like we just saw, OSU beats Kansas at home. OU beats West Virginia without Tshiebwe, obviously. But, OSU has a chance to beat Texas. All these teams, especially at home, that's the thing in the Big 12. If you can try to hold serve at home and then maybe steal a couple on the road, you're probably going to be up there in the top 3, 4 of the conference. So OSU did a great job and gave themselves a chance by beating Kansas to kind of stay in this Big 12 race late because they've already picked up a couple road wins. So both these teams are middle of the Big 12. Maybe one of them can slide into the 4 spot with West Virginia losing Tshiebwe. I don't know. But that's kind of where I'm looking at them right now, is about 4 or 5.
All right, well, we've got NFL playoffs this weekend, so let me ask you about your boy Baker here. And it's fair to say you're a Baker guy, right?
Yeah, hard not to root for him. I guess I was also an OU fan, so I understand that OSU fans probably didn't like him at OU, and they probably aren't rooting for the Browns. So.
All right, well, he's made it. Now, first off, I'm sure that you had to be just as shocked as everybody else, right, watching the Browns, what they did to the Steelers last weekend, or were you like the guy before that was like, man, no, Cleveland was going to do that all the time?
No, not at all. I don't think I would imagine that most Browns fans, there may have been guys on the Browns roster who were surprised at the way that game started. I mean, you're confident going into a game, but starting out 28-0, and really the first play of the game, period. It felt like the game that was not over, but the momentum was completely lopsided from that point forward. No, I did not think that they were going to come out and play that well. I felt like they had a chance. They have a great mentality there right now, and they're playing well. But I am as big a Baker fan as I am. I was just as surprised as everybody else to see them beat the Steelers.
Well, I think Baker's a really interesting storyline this year too, because last season it was a disappointment for the most part, but of course they had different coaching, and then I said this earlier, Freddie Kitchens was an absolute disaster and then didn't help anything that the Browns were doing. Kevin Stefanski comes in, not only has he been a great coach, but he's been so good for Baker Mayfield. And so this year it seems like also with that, he's kind of taken that next step to being a better quarterback, and so many people have been expecting so much more out of Baker. But what have you liked out of him this year that maybe he wasn't showing earlier in his career?
I think a lot of it early on in his career is that he had a similar mentality that he did when he was at OU, and that he was trying to do everything. He was trying to make every throw. He was trying to put the team on his shoulders, essentially. And when you got 2 of the best running backs in the NFL behind you and the best offensive or second best offensive line in the league, you don't have to really force the issue. You can let the game come to you. You can establish the run game and then, dink and dunk and play action. You don't have to be the guy that forces it downfield, and you don't have to be a Mahomes type where you're running all over the place and slinging balls 60 yards, and you don't have to do that to win games. And I think he's figured that out, or Stefanski has helped him figure that out. And he is not trying to be the guy, because he's not the guy. He's the quarterback, but he's not the guy on that team. So I think that's the biggest thing. He's limiting his turnovers. He has a fumbling issue. We've seen that kind of the last couple weeks of the regular season.
Yeah.
But in terms of throwing interceptions, which was a big issue early in the season and most, if not all, of last year, that was the big thing. And he's really done a good job of limiting those. And when you have a good run game, when you have a good offensive line, and when you have a pretty solid defense, if you can just, eat clock, extend drives, and not turn the ball over, you're going to be in just about every game you play in.
Yeah, so we know they took care of the Steelers. I mean, they pretty much dominated from the first snap, literally. Can they beat the Chiefs? And if you're being completely honest, can they beat Kansas City?
Can they beat them? Yeah, I think they can. They're playing well. So the Cleveland's thing is they're a hot starting team. Not just talking about last week. They've been a fast starting team throughout the season.
Yep.
Kansas City has not. Kansas City's a slow starter. They have history of doing that in the playoffs. They got down 24-0 last year to the Texans. Mahomes hasn't played in what are the timetable is 3 weeks now.
Yeah, 3 weeks.
So you can say he's going to be rusty. So there are elements of this that gives the Browns not an advantage, but gives them a chance. Will they win? Probably not. What's the latest line? Are you guys on this?
Yeah, that was the next thing I was going to ask you, actually, because they're a 10-point favorite.
Okay, so I could see them keeping it within 10. I would stay away from the line because I could see a 34-24, and that does no good for anybody. But I could see them covering, and I could see them losing like a 6-point game, something like that.
Okay. TJ Eckert joined us here on the Afternoon Sports Drive. Yeah, I think I like that pick for sure. Speaking of former OAU quarterbacks, you and I had talked about earlier in the season where Kyler Murray was with the Cardinals, and I think that was pretty recent off of his Hail Murray, if I remember correctly. It was somewhere around then when he was making big plays. Yeah, and it was like he was riding high. He was a star of the NFL. Everybody was like, the Cardinals are, they're going for it this year. We knew this might happen, and look, it's about to. And then since that game, it was just like a monumental collapse of that whole team. Of course, he got banged up, and that didn't help things. But how big of a disappointment do you think was it to really just see the Cardinals collapse and not make the playoffs? This was a team that was supposed to make the playoffs this year with that extra spot available.
Yeah, it was disappointing, especially like you're saying, because I'm pretty sure we either talked the week after or a couple weeks after that Bills win, and that turned out to be one of the better wins in the league this year, right? I mean, that was the last time the Bills lost. So I was really impressed with the way the Cardinals looked going into that game, and then after that, I just, I'm not sure when you're in the NFL and you're running a system like Cliff Kingsbury runs. If you put enough weeks of it on tape, I'm not going to say it's easier to stop, but it's a little, it's not. Gimmicky is the wrong word, but that's kind of what it is.
Yeah.
Especially in the NFL. Not everybody's running it, so theoretically you can say, well, not everybody's running it, so it's tougher to prepare for. Well, if you see it, and if you're in the division, you play the Seahawks twice, you play the Rams twice, you're playing all these good defenses. I mean, those guys are going to make adjustments to stop you. And then when those teams make adjustments to stop you, the teams that are on the schedule that you're only playing once can look at that film and figure out ways to stop it as well. So, I mean, teams are doing a good job of keeping Kyler contained in the pocket, making him try to throw from the integrity of the pocket. And then, like you mentioned, he got banged up, and he wasn't his full self as the season progressed, too. But, yeah, it was certainly disappointing. If this is the sophomore slump, if you will, for Kyler, then I think Cardinal fans can be relatively pleased because he still was dynamic and was still a great player and was in the MVP discussion for over half the season. You just like to, in year 3, especially under this Kingsbury system, you would like to see another step up, and if the next step up is simply making the playoffs, then that's kind of where you'd like to see this team next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and could you believe it? And I'm sure you couldn't, but could you believe it when you're sitting there and then the Eagles in the last game of the season, Doug Peterson's like, you know what, Jalen Hurts, get on over here on the sideline. We're going to put in who now? Nate Sudfeld's going to come into the game. Nobody knows about this guy. He's going to come in, and then we're going to call it afterwards, just a situation where we wanted to get some young guys in a game that didn't matter for us. What do you think about all that?
That was pretty surprising. I mean, and to really kind of hear some of the Eagle guys somewhat come to bat for him, but also not.
Yeah.
Like that's I gotta wonder if Peterson had already been informed that he probably was going to lose his job, and I don't know if it's his Custer's last stance, we're just going to throw a caution to the wind here and just do whatever we want. I don't know. It was very surprising, and this, And again, Jalen didn't have good numbers that game. He
Yeah.
was struggling throwing the ball. He was running the ball fairly well. But, I mean, I guess Peterson can justify it that way, but no, it was really bad. It was a bad look. If you're going to tank, you may as well do it at the beginning of the game, not when you're leading in the second half. Like, that's a little obvious. So that was disappointing to see, and I did not have as high hopes for Jalen Hurts. Speaking of the Eagles, I did not have as high hopes for him going into the NFL, and he played a little bit better than I was anticipating. I'll be interested to see what happens when they get a new coach in there. I know they're talking about the guy from the Saints is maybe rumored to be – no, that's the Lions. I'm sorry. Look at me. This is fake news. Look at me. I'm getting all my coaches mixed up. Yeah, the Eagles still looking for a coach. I'd be curious to see who comes in because if Hurts is the future, I don't know if he is. He's going to need someone that can develop him, kind of like the Lincoln Riley aspect of things when he was at OU.
Well, okay, so you put on the head coach hat then for the Philadelphia Eagles. If that's you, are you going with Carson Wentz and then saying, we'll give him another shot? Or is it like, no, we saw enough out of Jalen Hurts that we want to try to keep developing him here and then get back in a completely winnable NFC East?
Sure. I think it starts with ownership. I think if they think they can get something for Carson Wentz, then maybe you start there. If not, I think you got to go back to him. The arguments there that Doug Peterson maybe have ruined Carson Wentz while he was there. So maybe you get a new coach in there, new system, new everything, and maybe that's just what he needed. So sure, you can shop him around. I think there may be a team out there who still sees something in Carson Wentz. And if something on that end comes up, great. Now you have Jalen Hurts that you can fully develop. If not, I don't see a problem going back to Carson Wentz. I know he struggled, but maybe a change of pace, a change of face in the head coaching seat, in the offensive coordinator spot, maybe that'll help him.
TJ Eckert here with us on the Afternoon Sports Drive. All right, last thing I want to throw your way here. I'll stick with the NFL because we got the big news yesterday. But Urban Meyer, new head coach in Jacksonville. Do you like that hire?
It's an interesting hire for a guy who hasn't been in coaching for a handful of years now. But the guy's literally won everywhere he's gone. Never had a losing season. So he's got a good track record. I think more so than anything, in college, the head coach is super important. In the NFL, it's more about the guys you put around you, in my opinion. So I think the staff he hires, and there's rumors out there already about some of the guys he's bringing in, like Charlie Strong's name's been thrown around. I'll be interested to see who he hires as a staff around him. And he said it today. He mentioned that too. He said, I'm looking to put a good staff around me, and he said, I'm not going to be running around like crazy like I used to. So it sounds like he's going to be more of a CEO of this team, and he's going to be putting guys out there to basically make them look good. I'll be curious to see. It sounds like Trevor Lawrence is going to be the pick, no doubt about it. So they got a good core. They got a bunch of young talent. James Robinson looked awesome this year.
Yes, he did.
They have great defensive talent, young defensive talent. So they have pieces. It's just a question of can they get the coordinators, position coaches in place to kind of, magnify that talent, if you will.
Good stuff, TJ. Appreciate it as always, my man. Thanks for giving us some time, and we'll definitely have to get you back on when we know for sure that the Bedlam, when that first meeting's supposed to take place and whenever they reschedule, and hopefully it's sooner rather than later.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Appreciate you, man. Thank you. You guys have a good weekend.
You too, bud. TJ Eckert joining us on the Afternoon Sports Drive. You can follow him on Twitter at TJ Eckert, KTUL. Good stuff from him, as always. And we come back here on the Afternoon Sports Drive, and the buy or sell. It's coming up next. Welcome back in Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster. And show today brought to you by Bad Brad's Barbecue. Right now, go out and see them, 5302 West 6th. And you can get pickup orders. Make sure you call them early, 377-4141, or online at badbrads.com. They got their breakfast drive-thru. It's open 7 days a week from 7 to 11. That's where you really are going to find the best. I mean, the breakfast at Bad Brad's, oh my gosh. Burritos, biscuits, sausage rolls, donut holes. Yeah. Does that not sound amazing? You go right through. You don't have to go in the restaurant. Grab them, and you're good to go. Good stuff from Bad Brad's. We appreciate them as always. Great option for dinner tonight, too. Get you set for your weekend. Zach and I here in the second hour. We appreciate Levi with us in the first hour, and then, of course, TJ there. Always good stuff from them. Now it's just us, so that means we're going to get into some buy or sell.
Are you buying?
I'd buy that for $1.
Or are you selling?
You pick up the phone and you sell, sell, sell.
This is Buy or Sell on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
Make money, money, make money.
Buy or sell Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio. Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster. On this Friday edition, so Zach, I had one that was going to be a really good one for Oklahoma State and OU this weekend, but unfortunately.
I should start thinking about buy or sells.
Yeah, that's right.
Considering I did not.
Oh, that's right. I just realized that. Yeah. Well, I'll go first and give you some time here. How about that? It was a busy day. Okay, I get it.
It was a weird day.
We had some weird stuff going on. All right. So we talked about Tom Brady and Drew Brees. Stick with Tom Brady here,
okay?
Because I think he's going to win. I think the Bucs are going to take care of business finally. Buy or sell that he throws. Let's just say throws. I'll just say scores. You know, maybe he's on the one and he's able to plow it in. Who knows? Crazy things happen. Buy or sell that he scores 3 or more touchdowns.
I'll buy that. I think Brady's good enough for 3. I would honestly, I'd be surprised if he didn't. Just the way Tampa Bay's been playing recently. With that said, I still think New Orleans finds a way, and I don't think it's going to be more than 3. I think Brady might, like you said, I think he might throw for 2, pick up 1 on the ground, or throw for 3. You know, but I don't think it's more than 3, but I'll buy that it's at least 3.
Yeah, I'm going to buy it too, and you know, history would say this is probably not a great idea because of what they've done against the Saints this year. He looked in that first matchup, he was just simply confused by coverages, which was weird. And it mixed in at the same time, and I think it's fair that he wasn't used to everybody. You know, there were new weapons. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. He went from New England, where he had Julian Edelman able to make plays around the sticks, and that's about it, to having Chris Godwin and to having Mike Evans. And then Antonio Brown came in, and he got Gronk and all this back, and it's like, man, he didn't know what to do. He had so many weapons. And, of course, Bruce Arians was like, dude, we're going to air it out. So you're going to have to adapt or die here. And all that kind of rained down. Now, the second matchup, my goodness, you go back to that. He had just, at the end of that one, he was so frustrated with what he was seeing from the offense. Mm-hmm. You know, they couldn't run the ball, which threw everything off. He had to throw it he was throwing bad interceptions. He wasn't reading things right. And it's something about the Saints. Like, they had him twice. And I give credit to Sean Payton for getting his guys ready and saying, we don't care. Call them a super team, whatever. We're still the New Orleans Saints. We're going to come in and take care of business. So, third time's a charm. And I say that because Tom Brady you talk about a guy that takes things beyond serious when it comes to studying film, studying teams, and in the playoffs. This is Tom Brady's, this is him. He loves this time. He loves to dominate in this situation, and I think he finds a way to get it done. And the other thing, too, to add to it, the weapons are finally coming along at the same time. You know, you've got Antonio Brown, there's times he's looked vintage. His last few games, he's making catches, he's running deep routes, he's burning defenders, he's going up one-on-one. That's what Antonio Brown used to do. There we go. Chris Godwin can catch anything you throw his way. And then Mike Evans is playing lights out. He scored touchdowns all day. And, of course, you throw Gronk in the mix. You got running backs. I mean, it's just a really scary offense right now. So I think he gets it done. I'm going to say that he throws for 3 touchdowns. And I'm going to go out on the limb and say they get down on the goal line and quarterback sneak, and Tom Brady's in the end zone for a nice solid 4th.
Curious to see how many rushing touchdowns he's had in the last 3 or 4
There were
years.
a couple times I remember, last year where the Patriots would get down to the 1, and you'd think, oh, well, here comes one of their 20 running backs that they use. No, Tom Brady right at the middle. Yeah.
So I'm gonna stick with the NFL, but I'm gonna do that second. I'm gonna finish with the NFL. Okay. So my first on the fly. We find out today that Oklahoma State, the Bedlam game gets canceled. There's a positive test inside the facility, contact tracing, all that stuff. This is the second game for Oklahoma State to get postponed. Big 12 is going to meet with all 3 of those teams and anyone else that's had postponements and try to figure out when those games are going to get played again. Now, that could mean we're going to see 3 games in 4 days or 5 days, and it's just going to be an absolute nightmare. We got to try to squeeze them in towards the end of the season. Buy or sell, we see multiple conferences have to push back the conference tournament by a day or 2, or God forbid, the NCAA tournament have to be pushed back the start time a day or two to accommodate all of the postponements that are going on so they can get those games in at the end of the year.
Yeah, the NCAA tournament I think will probably not, because they've mentioned, and they're probably going to have to at some point get these other teams, basically replacement teams, ready to go. Because they need to get that in, and they need to get it in on time. If we're being honest, they got to move on to the next season. And the main thing that would be the problem, now this is like Armageddon situation, would be if you've got multiple 1 seeds that can't be there on time. If Gonzaga and Baylor happen to both be in quarantine and can't do anything, then who knows what happens. I'm sure there's contingency plans to possibly move it back, right? You want to make sure the best teams are in it. So I get that. But yeah, in terms of postseason tournaments for conferences, you know what? I think that they would probably accommodate that a bit, but it would be to the point where it's like, we need to get this immediate tracing done. We have to find out now who has to be in quarantine, and when we do find out, and if you meet the requirements to play, that means you're going to play like when we tell you, and that could be at a moment's notice. You have to be ready to go. So yeah, if it comes down to it where you got multiple teams and all of a sudden it's just a huge cluster and you can't get everybody in there at the same time, I'll buy that they make adjustments and do that to make sure they get that in. Part of it playing into last year, we didn't get one in. It's like we want to get that conference tournament in kind of at all costs. Yeah, absolutely. It's a cash grab. We know that, but the NCAA tournament the same way. We know it's going to happen some way or the other. And if that means that you lose a top team to get it going, and it's not like if Baylor were out, I don't think you're going to be waiting weeks for them to return. It's like, hey, if you can't meet it by this date, we'll give you a few days here. We're gonna have to go.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's going to be an interesting situation.
Yeah, it really is, because as of right now, you're looking at at least 3 teams right now in the Big 12 that very easily could be in the NCAA tournament. Certainly going to be in the Big 12 tournament if there is one. You're gonna have to try to figure out when they're going to play. Tomorrow's Bedlam game, when they're going to have to play the West Virginia game on Tuesday. Where are you going to put that? And I think that, you've got Baylor, they have remake games coming up. I think KU has a remake game. West Virginia has more than just this one game they're going to have to remake. And that's just the Big 12. I could see a lot of conferences saying like, okay, we would rather push our conference tournament back a day or two, so that way we can hopefully try to get all these games in where we're not having our top teams in the league playing 3 to 4 conference games in the span of a week, because that you're already, so if you play multiple conference games, let's say 2 to 4 in the span of a week, and then turn around and have to play another anywhere between 1 to 5 conference games in a tournament, and then turn right around and have to play in the NCAA tournament, and we're just talking about one conference. And I could see, the logistics of it are going to have to, I think, are going to have to be very fluid, especially at the NCAA level, because if the NCAA sets it and that's where it gets really tricky, because you're going to have to black out entire hotels for NCAA teams and possible replacement teams. And so if Baylor, let's say you got to push the Big 12 tournament back because Baylor's making up games, and Baylor's first game that's supposed to be scheduled in the NCAA tournament can't happen because they're in a Big 12 championship game, I would have to think that the NCAA is going to be like, well, we need this money. They're one of our cash cows. People are going to want to watch Baylor play, especially the advertisers. They're going to want all those big teams in. So I'm not saying that we're going to see teams that are going to have to be quarantined towards the end of the season, but I think there's going to be a lot of makeup games, and so I'll buy that there's going to have to be some fluidity with these conference tournaments.
There's going to be multiple teams towards the end of the year that it will feel uncomfortable, because you're going to have back-to-back games, and you may be doing that before the conference tournament even starts. We know that happens anyways, but regular season games towards the end, if you got to pack them in, I'm telling you right now, there's going to be some teams, and Oklahoma State could possibly be one, depending on how everything goes, where you're going to be playing a lot of basketball in very few days, but something you got to adjust to for this season. All right, so we saw that Urban Meyer got hired. We talked about it yesterday, knew that was probably going to happen. It did, which is really interesting hire. But do you think now, so we look at the AFC South there, you got the Texans, we got the Titans, you've got the Colts, and now you've got the Jags. Buy or sell that the Jags have now become the most interesting team in the AFC South because of this hire, and of course we assume Trevor Lawrence will be there too.
They are right now, and I think they will be once they get Trevor Lawrence. And obviously we found out before the start of our show that they hired Charlie Strong as a linebackers coach. So I think there are many, many interesting storylines, but I think that if, let's just say, Houston can figure out the mess that they're going through, if Deshaun Watson figures it out, or if he sent out that cryptic tweet, I was at a 2, now I'm at a 10, and some people are thinking that's anger level for getting rid of, players and all that crap. So I could see Jacksonville being the most interesting team up to a certain point, but if craziness ensues in Houston, I could see them taking back over just because that saga has gone on for so long. So I'll buy it intermittently.
Yeah, that's kind of where I am because the Texans are plenty of eyes to see what exactly happens. Will Deshaun Watson even play?
Yeah.
If we get to week 1 and we're still talking about this nonsense, will he even play? So there'll be plenty of eyes on him. But the reason that the Jags, I'll buy it, that make them the most interesting team now in that division, the Colts, there's probably not going to be any more Phillip Rivers. So, you're interested in what the quarterback does over there, but that's kind of it. The Titans are always fun to watch, but there's so many different storylines out of Jacksonville because you see young quarterbacks take over. Like last year, for instance, I wanted to watch more of the Bengals because I wanted to see how Joe Burrow did, but it makes me even more interested to watch the Jags because of all the other weapons they've surrounded themselves with. It's like there's actually a real chance for them to succeed. Plus, it's always interesting to see how a college coach fares in the NFL. Pete Carroll was a good example. Nobody knew exactly what would happen there. Obviously, he's resulted in a Super Bowl winning coach, and now it's Urban Meyer's turn. And I think TJ made a good point. He's won everywhere he's gone. He's going to bring that mentality over here to Jacksonville, who won 1 game last year. So they certainly need that. So yeah, I think they're absolutely the most interesting team in the AFC South. Put them in there at the top towards the most interesting teams in the NFL. There's going to be a lot more eyes. That's the thing about Jacksonville. Like, they're pumped now. It's like, you think that towards the end of the scheduling period, they're not going to get a couple more Monday night games or Sunday night games and national exposure. I think they're really excited about the future here with Trevor Lawrence and of course, Urban Meyer.
So I'm like I said, I'm sticking with the NFL. I sent this to you during TJ's interview, right? And I thought about doing this for my what I've learned today, but what I've learned is my time management is probably not the best. So I sent this to you. Field Yates reported Seattle Seahawks wide receiver Josh Gordon's conditional reinstatement has been rescinded, and he is now indefinitely suspended once more. Buy or sell, we'll see Josh Gordon back in the NFL at some point.
Man, I think we talked about it this year when he actually got reinstated again. It was like the 7th time.
I sold it real fast. He would not have any more issues.
It was like the 7th time.
Yeah.
And then when I saw the news story, it's been a while now, but when they found out he's abusing substances again, it's like, and there's been plenty of reports that, he went and sought help, he was doing rehab, and then all this, it's like, no, I mean, he's still clearly not doing what he needs to do to get back on track. And to me, he will always go down as one of the most tragic NFL stories because the talent was through the roof. Like when we saw him get games in, back when it was with Cleveland, like that Cleveland team sucked. But man, he was good. Like Josh Gordon was always, and even in a brief stint with Seattle, there were times where he still made big plays. And so I think that the talent, it's wasted. And he's done that to himself over and over again. Never seen anybody get as many chances as this guy. And I don't know. I mean, does this mean that the NFL finally is like, dude, like, we're done? And the reason I say no is because it's been very rare that you've seen anybody like the NFL actually chop off and say, nah, we're not going to let you back in, man. I mean, Myles Garrett busted a helmet over Mason Rudolph's head and got to come back. And with the stuff they put in about, the weed, for example, in the NFL, like it's no longer as big of a deal as it used to be. Like he's going to find a way around that. So I'll buy that we see him again at some point, but it'd be ridiculous of me to think that I'd say that we won't be saying this again. Yeah. It's that's the other thing. It's like, how long until he's just like, what's the point for himself? Because it's like how many more?
He's got to get that weed money.
It's like, how many more times do I have to get suspended before I'm just like, it's not even worth it, because I know I won't be able to keep myself clean long enough for an NFL season. So I feel, people will probably disagree, but I feel bad for Josh Gordon because I feel like he hasn't done and taken the right steps to actually achieve the idea of staying sober and staying off of all the substances, because the talent is still there. Not to mention he's getting older. Like there's a lot of teams that we saw with Antonio Brown. They're fine with getting Antonio Brown because his talent level's still there. It's Josh Gordon's. We don't know. We haven't been able to actually see him put together a string of games without being suspended again. But it's just like a bad movie for him at this point. Yeah. It keeps playing. We keep seeing it over and over and over, and it's almost to a comical point now where we're like, oh, it's Josh Gordon is suspended again. Josh Gordon can't get back in the league. Well, yeah, we've seen that about 100 times.
Yeah, 30 years. He's almost 30 years old. He'll turn 30
old for a wide
receiver.
April. Right?
It's old for anybody.
Well, it is, but in the NFL, big time.
I'm almost 30. I'll buy that we'll see Josh Gordon again, just because all parties are rather ignorant, right? We've seen Josh Gordon, mess up time and time again, and I think we'll see it again. But in the exact same breath, we also see the NFL reinstate. I don't feel bad for Josh Gordon. I'd feel bad for Josh Gordon if it were injury. If he were tearing ACL and he comes back and in the first game he breaks his arm, or he breaks a collarbone and he just can't stay healthy, but it's nothing really structural that's keeping him out, and he can come back. It's not like he's tearing his ACLs multiple times, like bone breaks, fractures and stuff like that. But it's the fact that he can't stay off weed long enough, right? I was a college kid. I understand it. I get it. I get how fun it is. I like to have a drink every now and then, but I guess I'll never understand that level of addiction. And Josh, that right there, you can't tell me that weed is not addictive.
Well, and
you can't tell me you can just stop it whenever you want.
It's not just like he's had alcohol issues too.
Yeah, there's so much that he keeps messing up.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't feel bad for him, because he's had so many. If it were like 2 or 3 times, maybe 1 to 3 times, and he had a mistake over the weekend, but we're on like you said, 7 or 8. I mean, it never ends. So I'll buy that we'll see him again, because the NFL is stupid enough to let him back in.
Yeah.
And he's stupid enough to keep coming back and getting that money.
Well, and that's why the other part of me, I do feel bad in a way, but at the same time I don't, because tells me he doesn't take it serious.
Absolutely.
I know that there's got to be obviously some addiction problems, and like I said, heard about him apparently going to AA and doing all this stuff and whatever. But man, if you don't, and nobody gets that many chances in life in anything.
No.
Like if that were happening in any other profession, you think you're going to be able to come back time and time again? No. I mean, Josh Gordon, he was allowed to come back for a reason. Now, part of it's the NFL, like I said, been pretty lax on that. But teams have given him a shot for a reason too, because they see the talent there. But man, he just does not take it serious.
And for me, I don't condone drug use. I understand that marijuana is you can't really say making a comeback. It's finally coming into being socially accepted. There's a lot of municipalities and a lot of state agencies and federal agencies that are, it's decriminalized and you can buy it legally now, and you can carry up to this amount and whatever. So I'm not condemning him for his choices. If anybody wants to do whatever they want, that's fine. But when the rules that are in place state this is what you can and this is what you can't do, and you continually break those rules, whether it's socially acceptable or not, that's where I have the issue. And it goes back to what's his name, Ricky, the old Texas running back that was with Miami for so long. won a national champion. I can't remember what his name is, but he kept failing drug tests and failing drug tests, failed drug tests. So I don't, and he was doing it to like make a statement, like, well, I'm going to beat the NFL. You're not going to beat the NFL if that's their rule until they decide to change it. You're breaking them. Sorry, I don't feel sorry.
Yeah, he's played the equivalent of 4 seasons over the past 9 years.
And to put that into perspective, he left Baylor in 2011.
Yeah. Oh, really? Wow. Yeah. That's it's just unbelievable. I feel like I said, part of me feels bad because he still can't get it done. But at the same time, you can only get so many chances at some point, I would have to think. When we come back in the afternoon sports drive to round out the show, we're going to tell you what we learned on this Friday. It's up next.
Feel like I'm gonna puke, cause my taxes are due. Do my password begin with a 1 or a 2? Been a hell of a ride, but I'm thinking it's time to grow.
Metronome.
Man, I'm up to something. Ooh-dee-la-dee-do, thank you all for coming. I hope you like the show, cause it's on a budget. So ooh-dee-la-dee-do, yeah. Come on, here we go, yeah. Come on.
Here we go.
So put your best face on, everybody pretend you know this song. Everybody come hang. Let's go out with a bang. I'm way too young to lie.
Welcome back, Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio, brought to you by Bad Brad's Barbecue. Check them out for dinner. They by the way, open on the weekends. You can go in there Saturday, Sunday. So it'll be perfect for your NFL viewing. Barbecue, open from 11 to 3 on Sundays, and breakfast drive-through, 7 to 11. So make sure and check them out. 7 days a week there at Bad Brad's, 377-4141, 5302 West 6th. To round out the end of the show, we're going to tell you what we learned.
The day is coming to an end. Time to find out if these two got any smarter.
The question is, what did you learn?
Let's find out what the guys learned today on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
Well, I learned something today.
Well, what I learned, Zach, was I talked to it there with Levi before he left, but Robert Saleh, the new head coach for the Jets, and the other reason why I think it's a big-time hire, because it's something you had said, and I get it. You know, to me, it's like, but is it really going to matter? You know, it's the Jets. Will that be a difference maker? And the reason I think it is because it's the antithesis of what Adam Gase was. Adam Gase was a guy that refused to take responsibility. He was not a player's coach. It was all about whatever he could do. And of course, we know what product he was able to put out there in the field and develop, if you even want to call it that, or attempt to develop. I don't even know if there was an attempt. He was so bad, like next level bad. And you get Robert Saleh coming in, who we know is already from San Francisco, is a big time players guy. Like, they love him. They want to play for him. Comes from a defensive background. You can see him on the sideline all the time. He's always fired up. He's into it. And the Jets need that. They need a kick in the pants. You know, and the whole organization does. And I think he provides that, because when you get players to buy in, like they did with the 49ers, go back to last year in the Super Bowl, all the way that Super Bowl run that they made, huge part was their defense. Like, that was the main reason they got in there and played so well, is because nobody could score on that defense. Chiefs had a hard time until the second half, right? And it was a struggle. And that's all credit to Robert Saleh. Everybody bought in. So this is, I think, a big-time turnaround here for New York. They're taking the right step, and this is the right guy to get at the helm. So this was good. This made sense to me. They have, like Levi said, a few guys defensively that are actually not too bad, believe it or not. I know they gave up a ton of points, right? But Quinnen Williams is a beast up front. He's going to really benefit from that. And depending on what they do in the draft, I think will be worth obviously paying attention to as well. Hopefully they go in after a quarterback. Will they grab Justin Fields at number 2? You know, will they grab Wilson? I mean, who knows? There's a bounty still out there. I know Trevor Lawrence will most likely be gone, but there's still a few good guys you can pick from and make your move, and the Jets need it. It's not going to be Sam Darnold. They've got to move on from that. Robert Saleh, I think, understands that, but the organization needs a presence like this to run the gauntlet, because guess what? I know that the Bills are the team to beat now. But that's a division where you can make a run in there and move up and take on a Dolphins team that's trying to become on the rise as well. The Patriots, we don't know what the heck's going to happen with them. You know, so it's sort of open there. And look, with these extra playoff spots, and if that sticks around, like, you got to start taking advantage. Not saying the Jets are just going to become a playoff team or anything, but this is a step in the right direction. Robert Saleh is a really good hire. I thought that was a big-time move for them yesterday.
Yeah, so what I learned today is some of you might know, I really enjoy NASCAR. It's a lot of fun. I've learned over the past month or so that NASCAR is on the rise. Obviously, we found out last year Michael Jordan bought into it, so Michael Jordan's a team owner, and it came out today for Trackhouse Racing, which is a new it's a new team. So, but I'm not going to go into that. But Pitbull, international recording superstar Pitbull, is now a team owner. He is bought into Trackhouse Racing.
So you still make music? Like I feel like I haven't heard from him in a long time.
Maybe just like Boost Mobile commercials and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, Pitbull, he's a NASCAR owner, which if that was not one I had on my board today. Pitbull becoming a NASCAR team owner. So I think NASCAR is over the next couple of years is into revitalization for maybe a bit of a boost.
Well, speaking of, I was going to ask you when TJ talked about that OU cheerleader.
Yeah.
Have you heard of like the Chili Bowl before?
I love the Chili Bowl,
okay.
and it's so awesome because you get stories like that. And you get there's a lot of local guys, and there's a lot of small time, really talented but small time dirt racers. But then again, in the exact same breath, Chase Elliott, wearing his shirt. That's my guy. Chase Elliott, who won the NASCAR championship this past year. Chase is here racing in the dirt bowl.
Cool.
You get Xfinity Series racers. There's tons of NASCAR racers. So you'll have an OU cheerleader who's a talented dirt racer going up against a NASCAR, multi-million-dollar NASCAR champion. It makes for great storylines. So the Chili Bowl, huge.
Yeah,
it's huge.
That's cool. Yeah, I was yesterday. I was scrolling through Outkick and I was like, TJ?
What the hell's a Chili
TJ.
Bowl?
I was like, what? And he's over there and he's got his story and I'm like, nice.
So cool.
That's cool. Yeah, for sure. He was happy about that too. It's been the afternoon sports drive again, brought to you by Bad Brad's Barbecue. If you were thinking to yourself, what do I do for dinner? Well, I just told you, and now you're good to go. 5302 West 6th, or we can call ahead or order online at badbrads.com, 377-4141. That's Zach Lancaster. I'm Patrick Wheeler. Appreciate TJ, appreciate Levi earlier on as well. We'll be back here on Monday to kick it off again. Until then, everybody have a great weekend.